So word spread very, very quickly all over India that the devotees had come, Vaishnava devotees had come. It was a very thrilling time, actually, to see the enthusiasm of the Indian people. So here we are in Surat. You've probably heard about the reception we had in Surat. No. Huh? What? Oh, camera. It's okay. You can see it okay, right? Yeah. I see. He's late. What to do? So the reception in Surat was incredible. Yeah. Left, on the very left is Hrimati, Hansaduta Prabhu's wife. I forget, I'm not sure of her name actually. Hrimati? No, it's not that. Himavati. Yes, Himavati. And then, I forget his name, there's Rishi Kumar next to her in the back. The person next to him I forget. There's Yamuna Devi. There's Devananda Swami at the time. And then Prabhupada's assistant servant on the right. I forget his name. Arbindo? Anyway, forget his name. Huh? No, not Upendra, no. So here we have an example of changing bodies. Yep. So you can imagine, I told no one I was coming. I just showed up, in front of Prabhupada, in front of all the devotees. And this is what they got. Anyway, it was a photographer's dream. Incredible. We had been used to taking pictures on the streets of New York where things were thrown at us and, just aliens from another planet. But here we received like demigods. We couldn't go more than a few yards without being stopped. And the second night I was there, this is a huge engagement. And they cleared the street. You see thousands of people. Everyone came out. Everyone. They were just so thrilled to see the devotees. And Prabhupada was their hero. He had left in 1965, and they hadn't, maybe they had some word, but not much. 6 years later, he comes back with his whole troop. So they had a Harinam every morning, and they would print the route through the city in the newspaper. So the inhabitants of that particular area would decorate the streets. And you can see their eagerness to receive the party. Everybody came out. This is Banu Das Brahmachari. As I said, we couldn't move more than a few yards without going by a shop or a house, and they come out and give us dots on the head and garlands and drinks, and they actually do arti to the Harinam party. That's Malati getting garlanded. That's Rivati Nandan Swami, just Das Brahmachari at the time, in back of her. And here she is. And Prabhupada would take his morning walks every morning. And these are the Boy Scouts trailing behind, and Durlabh Prabhu leading them in kirtan. So you see that little gadget on his wrist, that's a Super 8 movie camera. So he took a lot of the films that we see these pictures from. Again, these color photos are taken from little movie frames. So we have a treasure house of over 4 million little movie frames. And Prabhupada was very animated during this lecture. I shot probably a roll of film on his animated lecture. It's Nanda Kumar, Prabhupada's servant. Probably familiar with this picture. Yeah. And then every morning we'd have Mangal Arti in Prabhupada's room. It was a small room, everybody was packed in. It's the most intense Mangal Arti I've ever been to. Often he'd ask Yamuna Devi to lead the kirtan. And Prabhupada was tireless, 3, 4 engagements per day. You could hardly keep up with him. Prabhupada in his regal pose. And the man in the Gandhi hat, second from the left, from Prabhupada's left, he was our host, Mr. Jayawala. And he put up everyone in his house for, 10 days, something like that. And at the end, when we were leaving, he apologized for all the offenses he committed. And he didn't commit any offense. We committed offenses. But then he started to cry when we went. And Prabhupada looked at us. He said, "This is a Vaishnava." And Prabhupada took us to the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, 1971, February. Very, very cold. And Prabhupada had us do 3 things. And that is prasadam distribution, deity worship, and Harinam. There were hardly any books at that time. Yes, there were some books, some book distribution. On the left is Madhuvisa Prabhu. He was called the King of Kirtan. Emperor of Kirtan. Oh. Tamal Krishna Goswami, his wife in back of him, Madri, and Raghunandan Prabhu in the way in the back, tall. I forget the other devotee. Achyutananda just to Prabhupada's left. And Giriraj Das Brahmachari with a blanket on his head. And then Yamuna Devi and then Hansadura Prabhu. Every day this man would search out Prabhupada. When he found him, he'd start jumping up and down. Prabhupada liked him very much. And there's little Saraswati on Shamsundar Prabhu's shoulders. And she was a big hit in India. Prabhupada said she was a great preacher. She would go up to people and pull on their dhoti and sari and say, "Guess what?" And people would look down and say, "What?" And she would say, "Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you should surrender to Him." And then she'd dance with her arms raised on stage. So it was really wonderful. Sorry. I'm going the wrong way here. Let me go back. So Prabhupada stayed with us in a tent, although it was very, very cold. He could have stayed at the Gaudiya Math where he served for many years. Could have stayed in a hotel. But Prabhupada always wanted to stay with his devotees. And one day he took us by rickshaw to the Gaudiya Math, Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math. These are the deities there. Sri Yamuna Devi. And then we went to Benares. Wherever Prabhupada went, he was honored. Sometimes we think that Prabhupada didn't do very much before he came to America. Wasn't so successful. But actually he was extremely successful in preaching to the upper class. When we went back to India, they all received us for programs in their homes. So Prabhupada, wanted to preach to the leaders. And he did, very effectively. This is I believe it was the festival of Rupa Goswami meeting Lord Chaitanya and being instructed in Benares. There's Jayapataka Swami on the lower left. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki! And then Prabhupada wearing his Western cowboy shirt. When Mataji made this shirt for him, and she was thinking, what kind of style should I make? And then she figured, well, Prabhupada's a cowboy, I'll just make a Western style shirt. Prabhupada very proudly wore it. This is probably the closest you'll get to Prabhupada. Often devotees ask, what was it like to be in front of Srila Prabhupada? My answer was that it was quite uncomfortable for me. I was always worried about disturbing him with the camera. But also I can understand that he knew our minds and hearts very, very clearly. In fact, when I first met Prabhupada in Surat, he went through that magazine page by page. And he asked me, afterwards he asked me, I told him I'd like to stay with the party and travel. He said, so are you going to become a devotee? And I said, I don't think so, Prabhupada. But, and then he said, then you cannot stay. Very interesting. So they put me up that night. The next morning I got up, and nobody said anything, and Prabhupada didn't say anything. And I stayed for 2 months. So from that I could understand that Prabhupada saw that little spark, and he fanned that spark. So here we are at the famous Cross Maidan Pandal in Mumbai, and this is where quite a few devotees, I know of 3 devotees who met Prabhupada there. And one was that sadhu who came out of the Himalayas, and Prabhupada called him up on stage from the very back of the audience. And that's His Holiness Swami. So Prabhupada knew his future. You probably couldn't even see him. I mean, look at the crowds. Maharaj says he was way in back. Another devotee was His Holiness Lokanath Swami. He first met him there at Prabhupada. And there's another devotee, not well known. His name is Dadi Harta Prabhu. He's from Canada. He was just traveling, seeing India. He happened to go to the festival. And he recalls that he couldn't understand what Prabhupada was saying during his lectures. He said one thing, sorry, gosh, what's happening? But one thing was clear, and that was the word surrender. And eventually he did. So the last night of the Pandal, there was a marriage ceremony. This is Vedavyas Prabhu. Bhagavan, yes, Bhagavan. Do you know his wife's name? They're still together. Anyway, it was a huge hit. This was in front of 20,000 people. And Prabhupada gave the lecture, and when he gave the lecture, he said, "This is the real United Nations." And everybody cheered. Haribo! 20,000 people cheering. Yeah. Subal Swami did the fire sacrifice. And there in the very back upper left, you can see that sadhu who came out of the Himalayas. It's not very clear, but he's got the long hair. You see? Yeah. That's His Holiness Radhanath Swami. Yeah. So there's proof. I mean, we don't need proof, but it's the only picture we have, I think, of him there. This again was taken from a still movie frame. There's a lot we can do with those. And so back in New York was my girlfriend Jean. She published a book, photography, close-up photography. So I invited her to come to India. Again, she was an atheist, and I was completely immersed in, devotee lifestyle after 2 months with Prabhupada. So she came to Bombay, and we walked around Bombay taking our art pictures. But she met Prabhupada in his room at Akash Ganga. That was our first temple in Mumbai. And she showed him the book. Prabhupada went through it page by page. He was very interested in books because he himself published his books. So he was very interested in the quality and the binding. He really examined the book. So then we asked Prabhupada, we'd like to do another assignment and go to a Indian village untouched by Western technology and do a photo essay. So we asked Prabhupada where to go. We didn't know India. So he said, wherever you go, you'll get your cameras stolen and they will cheat you. So, but then he said, then you should go to Vrindavan. So that's actually where Vishaka Devi became interested and actually devoted to Krishna, living in the Dham. We know that's one of the most important items in devotional service. So we didn't go immediately. We stayed in Bombay a little bit, taking pictures. This fellow was outside the Cross Maidan. Nobody paid attention to him. Everybody was inside. And we went to Nepal first. That's Jean taking photos, all black and white at that time. Beautiful time of the year, summer, the Himalayas. We hiked up 10,000 feet, and we found a little deserted shack. And I brought one book with me, Bhagavad-Gita as it is, the original Macmillan edition, and she read that. In 5 days she read it. And that was the first seed planted that she could understand that she may be something other than the body and the mind. She may be something else. And then we came back down to Vrindavan, and her favorite place to photograph was in the temples, photographing especially the widows chanting Hare Krishna all day. And she, was there and listened and absorbed. And that was the seed of, again, that was watering the seed. We wandered around Vrindavan morning and evening. And then we went to Calcutta. I shaved off my mustache and cut my hair. And Gurudas Prabhu asked us to come to Calcutta to produce a Vyasa Puja book for Prabhupada. We have many pictures at that time. So we did that, and then, actually here we are in Calcutta. Oops. This is Dinanath Prabhu during the Arti. And there, this is October 1971, and that's when I took Diksha. Jean wasn't ready. And then Prabhupada took us to Delhi for the famous Delhi program. We organized these huge Pangal programs all over India, major cities. Again, Prabhupada was greeted, but the mayor is on the left, and Prabhupada knew him very well. So he was greeted at the airport by the mayor and dignitaries. These are the beautiful deities that are now in the Bhakti-Vedanta manor. Shri Radha Gokulananda. And interestingly, another side bit of information, Vishaka Devi is now the president of the Bhakti-Vedanta manor. So from atheist to president, this is Prabhupada's potency. And then Prabhupada, after the Delhi Pandal, he took us to Vrindavan, and we were married. And then Vishaka took Diksha at the same time. And unfortunately, there's no picture of Prabhupada. We only have one black and white picture of our wedding. I think of my daughter, Hari Priya Devi, who was married 2 years ago. There's a whole video. There's thousands of pictures. We have one picture. Unfortunately, Prabhupada was sitting on the asan just to the left. And another interesting thing happened, that Radhanath Swami wandered in during the wedding. He had come out of the Himalaya, after the Cross-Maidan Pandal. After the Cross-Maidan Pandal, he went back to the Himalayas. And then he got his visa in Mumbai, then went back to the Himalayas. And he heard Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. So he came down to Vrindavan. And wherever Prabhupada went, he would go in the mornings. So he came to our wedding. Kind of him. So we started traveling with Prabhupada and taking our pictures. You can see Vishaka Devi with her camera. And there's Guru Das. She had the privilege of being up front as a photographer. And Prabhupada gave us a tour of Vrindavan at that time. This is the Radha Damodar temple. There's little Saraswati. This is the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami, I believe. Yeah. Bhajan Kuti or Samadhi? Okay, yeah. This is at Brahmanda Ghat, where Mother Yashoda saw the universe in Krishna's mouth. When Prabhupada was describing this, his eyes got very big. And we all went swimming at that spot in the Yamuna. Prabhupada at first declined to come in, but we were insisting he came in. Finally he did. This is Dr. Kapoor, Prabhupada's godbrother. And that's Karana Dakshai Vishnu in back of him. And Prabhupada's servant just in back of Prabhupada, I forget his name, maybe Rohini Nandan? Not sure. We went to Varshana carrying Prabhupada in a palanquin up the steep steps. And then to Jaipur. Again, Prabhupada was taken in a grand procession through the city streets in a bullock cart. We stayed with these quarters of the palace. The queen at that time was Gayatri Devi, and she really loved Prabhupada. They had some quite long talks together, and wonderful time. Mahaprasad from Radha Govinda. And then here we are in Juhu, when there was no temple. We had a small temple, of course, but not the big one. I remember walking around. We served here for 2.5 years, Vishaka Devi and myself, under these extreme conditions, as we've heard about. Actually, Vishaka, everyone was living in this kind of shack. The deities also were there at one point, but then we built a separate little shringasan for them. But it was so intense in that everybody in that one building. Vishaka moved to the roof of one of the apartment buildings, and she built a little lean-to off the roof wall with bamboo and palm frond and plastic, and that was her office. She wrote an article at that time, Srila Prabhupada, India's national hero. And Prabhupada liked that article very much. He said, if you keep writing, he said, but it is not yet perfect. He said, if you keep writing, it will become perfect. And she's done that over the years. I asked her one time, how many articles have you written for BTG? This is about 10 years ago. She said 108. She has a book, some of you may have read that. It's called 5 Years, 11 Months and a Lifetime of Unexpected Love. 5 years, 11 months is her time with Prabhupada. I'm her husband, but I'm plugging her book because it's an extraordinary book. It brings you from her, excuse me, her consciousness of atheism, her fixed understanding, to being a devotee, and all the trials and tribulations she went through. It's amazing. There's Prabhupada at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Juhu Temple. This is 1973, and we got a letter from Karandar Prabhu, the head of the BBT, and he wanted a movie on ISKCON. We had no movies at the time. And we liked that idea. He said, we want you to make a movie. He presented that idea to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, yes, we should have a film. And actually Prabhupada gave $16,000 from his book fund to finance that film. So we can understand that Prabhupada understood the future. I mean, then people were already mad after movies. But now it's just increased. So Prabhupada was the executive producer on the film. Nice. Yeah, thank you. So this is the film, Hare Krishna People. Prabhupada saw this quite a few times. I mean, at every Pandal program, Prabhupada would ask for the film to be shown at the end. And one devotee had a dream after Prabhupada left. He was doing big Pandal programs in Calcutta. He had a dream that Prabhupada told him to show the film after every program. And this, the current film that we're trying to distribute, Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and the Swami who started it all. We've had experience that people who see that film are extremely moved. Some of them even had no contact with devotees. They come out of the theater with tears. So this is the potency of Srila Prabhupada. It's a 90-minute darshan. I don't take credit myself. We had a great team. Actually, there were over 300 companies and individuals that put together that film. So it was a huge effort. And now we have the film in 8 major Indian languages. So our goal on this trip to India is to distribute it as widely as possible all over India, so people will understand that Prabhupada is their hero. No one else. I mean, at least he takes first place. He's not in that place yet in so many people's minds. Yeah. This is the gear I was shooting with at the time. Very cumbersome, big. And that blanket type thing over the camera kept the noise down. So that it didn't record on the tape recorder that Vishaka used to get the sound. At that time, sound and visual were separate. And this is the editing system we use, very rudimentary, hand cranked. So we could never get the right speed at 24 frames a second. There was a lot of guessing. Should we cut it here? Should we cut it there? So trial and error. Howard Wheeler, we credited him for working on the script. Howard Wheeler is Hayagriva Prabhu, great writer, if you can read his books. And this is quite an astounding, this was back in 1973. This is the BBT warehouse in Los Angeles. This is only about 6.5 years after Prabhupada started. And there's, millions of books being produced, a big warehouse being sent all over the world. It was extraordinary, just extraordinary. So as I said, whatever Prabhupada desired, Krishna would make all arrangements. So again, Prabhupada meeting dignitaries. This is the chief minister of UP. So when Prabhupada saw these cows, we actually had a slow motion shot of them coming down the hill. When Prabhupada saw that, he said, "Those cows are floating. Can you fix it?" So Prabhupada apparently had never seen slow motion. So he said, "No, Prabhupada, that's part of the effect, special effect." And he said, "Then it is all right." This is the last scene of Prabhupada dancing at the Bhakti-yoga manor. And this is a new editing system that my father purchased and donated. He donated a new camera also. He met Prabhupada twice. And he was a history professor. And Prabhupada was discussing the history of the British in India with him. So he knew quite a bit. My father knew quite a bit about it. So they had a nice discussion. My father was very favorable. So we're going through the 4 films that Prabhupada saw. And the next film is called Brilliant as the Sun. What it is following one verse of the Bhagavatam, going all the way through book production. And Prabhupada actually commissioned this film. He wanted to show something to his godbrothers at the Gopurnim festival in 1975, that he was doing the work of his spiritual master in printing and distributing books. So we decided to make a film about that. And we start with Sukadeva Goswami speaking the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And Prabhupada spoke that verse, that one verse, and Davrita Prabhu is typing it out. And here we go. Here's the verse, the very famous verse. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun. And then we show the book production at the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in Los Angeles. And as every step is done, is finished, it's checked off on this board. This Mataji was one of the fastest typists I've ever seen. She would type up all the purports, everything. And she would give the tape to Archita Prabhu to put in that machine in back of him that would print out each page. This is all very cumbersome. Just like the filmmaking was very cumbersome at that time. And today it's all digital and very quick. So, by the way, Archita Prabhu is still with the BBT 50 years later, doing service. This is Madhusudana Prabhu taking pictures of the paintings. And we followed one painting from initial conception, a pencil drawing, all the way through to completion. Hare Krishna. Thank you. And then the picture is printed out and then resized for the cover. And finally printing. That's not our press, that's actually an outside press. That's Rameshwar in the middle, Jagannath Sutta on the left, and Radhaballabha on the right. Radhaballabha was the head of the, not the head of the BBT, but the manager, I guess. This is the BBT truck. There's the warehouse. And all the books. And we included reviews. Prabhupada was very proud of the reviews from very famous professors at famous universities, Yale, Harvard, Princeton. Actually, devotees, Devamrita Swami went to Yale, I believe. And who else went to? Anyway. He went to University of Pennsylvania. And there were several devotees in major universities at that time. And the final scene of the movie is distributing the book on the streets of Los Angeles. That's Gopa Vrindavan Prabhu. And approaching a businessman. The businessman is a devotee. And they had a conversation preaching about distributing the book. And they were wired with a mic, and I was across the street in the second story of the building shooting down. And we hear them, we hear the conversation. That's the last scene of the film. So we took this film to Prabhupada, and we would sit in his room. Whenever even one guest came in, he would speak to them and greet them. And he turned to me and say, "What, do you have that film?" And I brought with me something called a Fairchild projector. And in about 30 seconds, you could show the film. It was a businessman's briefcase. You open it up and you stick the film in, and bingo, everything's there. So people were amazed not only by the technology, but also by Prabhupada's efforts in printing and distributing books. The next film that we made was called The Spiritual Frontier, and it was a documentary on New Vrindavan. Prabhupada asked us to do this film also. He was very enthused by the project, New Vrindavan. I don't know if you've heard of Mangalananda for the music. Mangalananda is a genius, composer, musician, and singer. If you ever get a chance to hear his albums. His first album was called Change of Heart. And that's, it's a wonderful album. He played another album from Prabhupada in his room. I was there. Prabhupada really liked it. He said, "You can play this in the temple." Yeah. You distributed it. Uh-huh. Nice. Even if they got that alone, that was enough. So this is kind of a trick shot. I placed the camera in front of the horses, turned it on and ran away, and they ran over it. And then I reversed the shot to see them from the back. It was a beautiful time of year in New Vrindavan. The summer, lots of crops, and Prabhupada really liked the statistics on the milk production of the cows. One of the cows produced up to 40 liters. 40 liters a day. Unheard of in India. So we had a piece of glass covering the camera. And then the birth of a calf. And then when Prabhupada saw these puris cooking, he leaned up out of the Vyasa and he said, "I want one." And this is the beginning of Prabhupada's palace. Actually, it was meant to be Govindaji temple. But then they decided to turn it into Prabhupada's palace. And Prabhupada's palace is a big tourist attraction. All the work was done by devotees. How many have not been to the Palace of Gold? Yeah. Try to go someday. It's amazing. Thank you. This is Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada praised the effort of Kirtananda Swami for this project. Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki. Beautiful deities. And this is the last shot of the film. I was in a helicopter. Yeah, I wish I had a drone. My grandson has a drone. And then the last film that Prabhupada saw was called Spark of Life. This was a film actually commissioned by the Bhakti-Vedanta Institute to show how life comes from life and not matter. So they wanted us to actually try to defeat the current arguments of the scientists. But we figured if we did that, the film would become out of date because their theories are always changing. So we decided to base it on Bhagavad-Gita, on the philosophy of Bhagavad-Gita, and that never changes. So we had devotee actors play the main parts. On the right is Duryodhana Prabhu, on the left is Agastya Prabhu. Duryodhana Prabhu on the right, he was the student of biology, hearing about how life comes from matter. And Agastya on the left was studying the Bhagavad-Gita in the religion class. So they were back and forth, dialogue back and forth. And this is their professor, Damodar Prabhu, biology professor. They all did a great job, actually. He's explaining how life comes from matter, from the gases and the primordial soup. And finally one cell is produced. This is completely crazy. I was just studying about lice, because we have a lice problem. And there's 5,000 species of lice. And they're so tiny, but they have all facility for burrowing into the skin. I hope this is not too unpleasant. They have all facility, construction-wise, to burrow into the skin and take the blood. I mean, these creatures are just, how can this come from, accident? It's just, it's lunacy, actually. It's completely off. That's why Prabhupada spent so much time preaching against this idea. So he's studying his biology class. And then we go through a sequence trying to find the soul. Where is the soul? And we look, in the bone structure and the blood circulatory system, all the way down to the atom. And we can't find the soul. Where is the soul? And then another sequence is showing how we grow, how we age. So we took a newborn baby and we showed it just the hands through this sequence. And growing and growing. I didn't include all the shots, but here are some. And finally, old age and death. And the next scene is an operating room scene. It was directed by a devotee nurse who works in an operating room. These are all devotee doctors. And it was shot in my apartment. we got all the equipment together and assembled it. So this scene is trying to show once the soul leaves the body, there's nothing you can do to bring it back. So they try all methods, electric shock and injection and pumping the heart, and nothing works, and he passes away. And then we have the graveyard scene and the mourning relatives. Mourning, not mourning, but. And the priest throwing in the dirt. And then the biology student is thinking about all these things he's seen and heard from his friend. He finally comes to the conclusion that life comes from life. And it's a happy ending. Srila Prabhupada ki. This is the end of our picture show, slideshow. All these films are available, by the way, on YouTube, if you'd like to see them. I don't think many have seen these films. They're too old, but they're interesting. Actually, we had a film festival We showed one film every night in New Zealand. Devamrita Swami invited us to come there after the Christmas marathon. And we had a retro film festival. Yeah, it was nice. Any questions? Yes. The channel is Hare Krishna Film Classics. Hare Krishna Film Classics. If you want to see all the videos, you have to click on video. They'll all come up at that point. But there's many different, just for instance, the Hare Krishna people, I think is in about 8 languages. We have all the languages there. All the different languages that were subtitled and dubbed at that time. I'm working on this. It's restoring all the films of Prabhupada, retransferring them to a higher quality digital, because we want to preserve them in the highest quality. Back in 1998, we transferred to standard definition SD quality, and it's gone way beyond that now. It's 4K, 8K, 16K, and more. But we can get sufficient resolution out of a 16 millimeter film frame with 4K. 4K resolution is fine. So it's a big project. We have 47 hours of film, and we're taking donations for that. We've raised half the funds, and we're sure we're going to finish. My daughter Haripriya and her husband Bhishmadev, they're the project managers. I'm kind of a fellow going collecting. And they're doing a great job. In fact, they're taking over the family business. They're both into video and film, video and still photographs, and also website design. If you ever need a really good team, their company is called Hoofprint Media. You use them? Can you give a testimonial?
Hare Krishna, pranams. So I contacted Hoofprint Media and contacted Bhishmadev Prabhu to do some service for the ISKCON Kirtan ministry. So we wanted to make a logo for Harinam Sankirtan. We wanted to rebrand it as Fresh Air Kirtan. Right, you go out in the fresh air and you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Bhishmadev was very excellent and very professional in communications, and he gave us some beautiful logos. Stoka Krishna Gop Prabhu is a professional designer. He did his masters in Paris, and he was also appreciating that logo design. So excellent work. They have very variety of artistic services that they offer, from websites to graphic design, and they designed a great logo for me, very quick and very professionally. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Maharaj. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, good question. There's some new films you haven't seen that we discovered in the many years gone by. We released the Following Srila Prabhupada series. That's on this YouTube channel also, and that was released in 2009, 2007 actually. In that series, we included all the films we knew existed at the time. And also, I urge you to listen to and watch and listen to that series. We have 335 devotees speaking in that 31 hours about Prabhupada. First-hand stories, no second-hand stories, people who were there. So you'll learn a lot about Prabhupada if you listen to that entire series. So there's new films. There's there's some films at an archives in Canada. We knew about it for some time. It's very expensive to purchase film from a outside company, but they have a film of the 1974 Rath Yatra in San Francisco. Prabhupada's in it, Vishnu John Maharaj is in it, Jayananda Prabhu's in it. We need to secure that footage. So this film restoration will also be a lot of the existing films that we made, but a lot of the outtakes from different places, different centers around the world. Films we didn't use. It'll be everything. It's 47 hours. It's quite a bit. I mean, if I had a iPhone 14, we'd have a lot more. But filming back at that time was 10 minutes of film was a roll like this and quite heavy, and about $100 for everything, to purchase the film, to develop the film, to make a work print, about $100 for 10 minutes. Now it's free. So times have changed drastically. Anything else? I think we're supposed to go till 6:30. Yes. You saw one of my favorites, Prabhupada in the rickshaw. That close up of him also, looking at you. And there's one at the second Pandal in Mumbai. I think it was also Cross Maidan. Prabhupada looking up and he's smiling, just this huge smile, beaming. Black and white picture. Now he's looking up at someone. Is that my phone? No. Same ring. So the film restoration project is going on, and these are some details. We have nice reviews from different prominent devotees in the movement. Ramana Swami, Jayapataka Swami, Satyanandan Swami, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. I have some brochures if anyone's interested in taking a brochure. It's, 5:30 now? That's it? What would you like to do? All right, any more? Don't be shy. Yes, we work together quite a lot. Yeah. There's another documentary on ISKCON. The first documentary was Hare Krishna People. The second one was World of Hare Krishna that came out in 1981. And the third one was 1995, The New World of Hare Krishna. So I did a lot of shooting for that in different places around the world. And the Sringananda put it together, did the editing. So he's trying to produce a Bollywood film at present. He's going for the rhino. Well, I hope he succeeds. The topic is a young girl with her cow, pet cow. And the cow is forcibly taken away from her, taken to the possible slaughterhouse, and it's a whole drama around that. And there's quite a bit of Krishna consciousness in it. So we'll see. I hope Krishna sanctions that. As usual, he needs funds. That's actually the biggest hurdle these days. A little bit, not so much. He gave us some guidance on the second documentary or the first documentary on Prabhupada's life called Your Ever Well-Wisher. That film is also on the YouTube channel. So a little bit with Mukunda Maharaj. Anything else? Yes. Well, the favorite film is Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and the Swami who started it all. The latest film. And the scene, I don't know if that scene is in there, but Prabhupada in his room, alone. Of course, we were there also, filming him. But he's sitting in a rocking chair, very relaxed, and chanting Hare Krishna. And then he's walking around his room and chanting Hare Krishna. Then he came up to a picture of Gaurkishore Das Babaji chanting. And he turned to the camera and he said, "Just see, such an old man, and he's still chanting." And then Prabhupada, I had a question for Prabhupada. I turned off the camera, and I said, "Prabhupada, in your books you write that married life without children is zero." Because we had no children at the time. We were just producing films for 12 years. So Prabhupada said, that is not for devotees. That is for, ordinary. And then he said, make Krishna your child. We had two wonderful daughters. They're both initiated by His Holiness Radhanath Swami. We feel very fortunate. Actually, Hari Priya Devi was born in Jagannath Puri. And another time that Radhanath Swami just appeared, he was there on a yatra with about 40 devotees. Now the next yatra in Puri is coming up, 10,000 devotees. Yikes. Anyway, he was. I met him at Haridas Thakur's Bhajan Kutir. No, what is it called? Siddha Bakul. Yes. Yeah. And I asked him to come out and lead a kirtan for the baby to come out because she was overdue. So he came to the house Friday night. He led a beautiful kirtan. And when he was leaving, he asked me, "So what is the name?" And I said, Haridas. And he said, "If it's a girl?" I didn't expect a girl. He said, "If it's a girl?" I said, "I have no name." Immediately he said, Hari Priya. And she was born the next day. Yeah. What else? Tell me about yourself. Any trials and tribulations? I mean, I've been around for 50 years. That's all I can say, around. I can't say much about my past, but some experiences there. This world is a difficult place. And it gets more and more difficult as we get older. Prabhupada talked about old age when we were in our 20s. And we heard it. We had very little realization, you can say. Very little. So, it's not first class. First class is you hear and you understand. You realize. And we have to experience it, most of us. So it's not a place for a gentleman or a lady. Not at all. Yeah. But Krishna has set it up in such an amazing way to. So it's not a pleasant place for us. If we actually look around and have experience, it's not a pleasant place. But we try to make it pleasant artificially. Prabhupada's last words in both our films on his life were really stuck with me. He said on his bed, translating, he said, everything is acting, moving by the supreme desire of Krishna. This consciousness is Krishna consciousness. So everything, the good, the bad, and everything in between, it's all really set up for us for our lessons. This is not our place. So we should take it like that, everything. If we can take it like that, if we actually realize that, then we're happy. We're not disturbed by bad situations, even our physical body. I was alone with Prabhupada, not alone actually, I was massaging his arms and chest in the last days, and others were massaging feet and legs. And Prabhupada, all of a sudden, his body went through some contortions, and I thought I might be hurting him or something. I didn't know what it was. So I asked Prabhupada, "Are you feeling pain?" And he looked at me very detached, and he said, "No." So the body will go through all kinds of changes up until the point of death. Every pure devotees, whatever. But Prabhupada was completely detached. He wasn't affected. And the proof of that is his very clear purports at the very end. You could not tell that he was in that condition. So it's a wonderful lesson. Actually, the last thing that Prabhupada said to me, I was leading kirtan in his room. 2 a.m, we took shifts at that time. And I stopped and started to lead sing another tune. And then Prabhupada said to me, he said, a person who's expert in one thing has a tendency to become expert in all things. Now become expert in Krishna consciousness. So that applies to everyone. We all have some expertise. Let's all become expert in Krishna consciousness. That'll be the perfection of our expertise. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The final lesson. So yeah. The question was I getting emotional during that service? I actually wasn't, because I was so absorbed in the technical, the lighting, the sound, the angles and everything. But that came later. But yeah, I felt like a machine, just doing my work. You're a good question person. Anything else? Well, laws, great laws. We never thought that Prabhupada would leave. But that has become actually more and more intense as time goes on. Yeah. We realize more about Prabhupada, who he was, what he did. Just amazing. Empowered Vaikuntha man. Goloka man. Well, it takes time. One thing that's very important in Krishna consciousness is patience. We need to stick with it for the long run. I mean, for years I was somewhat dry, going through different, episodes with ISKCON and so much turmoil and, sometimes fighting and anyway, you know the history. There are those times. But Prabhupada, he wanted us to continue. He wanted us to stick with it. Don't jump out of the boat. Because if you're sincere and you follow the instructions, the result will come. Now, you may be, 20s, 30s, but we're looking at, I'm almost 80. But I had to wait a long time. But the result will be there, definitely. Have faith. It's very important, is faith. Do service that will increase your faith. And that's, mainly serving advanced devotees. We may not even be able to follow ourselves, but serving advanced devotees is really very, very important, as we've heard many times. Association. It's really probably the most important. But the thing about Prabhupada, he understood our difficulty, especially being brought up in the West, the way I was brought up. In high school, a lot of drinking, and went to Berkeley, LSD and the drug scene, and revolutionary university students. Actually, we were walking with Prabhupada in 1975 on the Berkeley campus. And I was telling Prabhupada that I went here, something about the university, and I said, and we passed by the clock tower. It's a very high clock tower. So during my time, students were jumping off, committing suicide, just because of the turmoil and the uncertainty of it was horrible. So they had to put glass so nobody could jump off. I told Prabhupada that, and he told us a story about the Himalayas giving birth. He said one day there was a rumor going around that the Himalayas are going to give birth. So all the villagers assembled at this cave at the base of the foothills. And they waited and nothing happened. And then finally they heard some rumbling. And some mice ran out. Some rats. Prabhupada compared that to the big university producing mice and rat-like men with no education about the soul. Nothing. So many years. So Prabhupada said, it's a slaughterhouse. We should get our education, but we should balance it with, at least some spiritual life to feed the soul. I'm not saying we shouldn't go to school or we shouldn't go to university, but we should have another life. So Prabhupada, again, he was very compassionate upon those who were having difficulty. There was one devotee, he was a sannyasi, and he went to South Africa to preach alone. And there he had trouble and he fell down. I saw him years later. He came to Laguna Beach to see Prabhupada. And he had long hair and a mustache. And he told Prabhupada, I'm trying to forget Krishna. He was an ex-sannyasi trying to forget Krishna. It was a shock to hear that. And Prabhupada very matter-of-factly said, that is not possible. So once you have a little taste, then you can't get rid of that. That will never go away. You know. So anyway, next year, that same devotee was waiting outside to greet Prabhupada in the 55th Street building, 1976, for the final Rath Yatra, the grand Rath Yatra down 5th Avenue. So he was living at the time in New York City. So he came to greet Prabhupada, and he stood way in the back, but Prabhupada saw him, and he told his servant, go tell him I want him to cook for me. And a devotee said, Prabhupada, he's a meat eater. He started eating meat. Prabhupada said, I don't care. Have him cook for me. Just to give him association. That was Prabhupada's compassion. Amazing. So if you could promote this Hare Krishna movie as much as possible. We don't have it quite yet in the 8 languages, but probably in a week or so we will. It's all the major Indian languages. And my wife and I did a tour with doing Q&A, question and answers after the film, to quite a few countries in the world after it was released. So many times we saw, people who had never heard about Hare Krishna come out with, very emotional, with tears in their eyes. So again, it's Prabhupada's potency is there. And however, and by the way, it's on tubi.com, Tubi, here in India. It's like Netflix, but it has advertisements. Netflix didn't take it, and Amazon didn't take it. We tried. It's on Amazon in America and Canada and different places, different other countries, but not in India. Just see Prabhupada's birthplace. They don't care. They want to produce for the young people whatever will gratify their senses. So, but it is on tubi.com, Tubi.com. It can be seen in India. So maybe we could have kirtan. Would you like to have kirtan? Yeah. Yeah. What comes to thought is immediately is the 31-hour series on Prabhupada. I don't know if you have time. Probably not. It's first-hand accounts from devotees who were there. It's quite amazing. Otherwise, read Lila Amrita and think about Prabhupada as you chant. What he did, his compassion, his patience with us, young, early devotees. So much patience. So much toleration of so many things we did wrong. And also, not following properly. So, meditate on his accomplishments and who he is, what he did. Sit in the samadhi and chant. Anything else? Thank you very much. We'll probably have some kirtan, although harmonium's not working so properly. We could try it. The other keys are quite loud, so if you'd like to say for kirtan, you're welcome. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskatari Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Bol Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Everyone chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Again, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, everyone, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,